In 1998, Ri Pak was in a 20-hole playoff at the US Women's Open. Yeah, 20 holes. That's wild. She was showing the world that South Korean golfers were just as amazing as the rest. But this isn't just about the wins or the numbers. These are the queens in golf history who came in and flipped the script on what it means to be a golfer. So let me tell you why their names still get talked about today. Berg's win at the 1946 Women's Western Open was a moment that shifted the entire landscape of women's golf. At that time, golf was pretty much played by men only. But then she came showing everyone that women can kick butt too. And that win earned her the title. Moreover, she made way for more women to come in and take their shots at the game. Back in the 1930s, golf wasn't exactly a sport women were encouraged to take up, especially at a competitive level. But Patty had this natural talent and a drive that wouldn't quit. She started playing when she was young. Her family wasn't super into golf, but she was determined to make it her thing. There was no LPGA or any official platform for women to compete on a national level. So when I say she made her way, believe me, she did. Eventually, Patty and a few other pioneers like Babe Zaharias came together to form the LPGA in 1950. But before that, Patty had to play in small, often unofficial tournaments. She was a strong competitor in local and regional events, which helped her build a reputation. But you know what? Patty didn't just belong. She was one of the best. Now, Patty wasn't just some random winner. She racked up 60 LPGA victories and 15 major championships. That's insane, right? But what's even crazier is her contributions outside of the game. She helped co-found the LPGA, giving women a real chance to play at a professional level. Back in her day, there weren't many opportunities for women in golf, but Patty made it happen. If she hadn't done that, who knows if the LPGA would have even existed. She literally created the stage for women's golf to shine. She had this vision for women's sports. People not only admire her for her skills, they also loved her for what she represented. Patty's legacy is so much more than her career stats. She laid the foundation for everything that came after. She was the first queen of women's golf, and everything we see in the sport today owes something to her. But she was not the only one. In 1961, Wright hit her 13th major, and that win was the moment her swing became iconic. You've probably heard people talk about having a perfect swing in golf, right? Well, Mickey's was the real deal. It was powerful, graceful, smooth, and unique. When she took that 13th major, it sealed her reputation as one of the greatest golfers of all time. Mickey's career was a definition of dominance. With 82 LPGA wins and 13 major championships, she made it clear that she was untouchable. For years, her swing became the gold standard. The way she hit the ball was a thing of beauty. Mickey's mental toughness and consistency set her apart. In a sport where your mind can either make or break you, Mickey was calm, collected, and always in control. She was the perfect blend of power and precision, and no one could quite match her for years. Wright was practically born with a golf club in her hand. Growing up in San Diego, she was always a sporty kid, but it wasn't until she was a teenager that golf really grabbed her attention. Her dad, who loved the game, introduced her to it when she was just a young girl. He wasn't a pro, but he had a passion for the game, and that was enough to spark Mickey's interest. She started playing casually, but as soon as she picked up the game, it was clear that she had something special. She got serious about it fast. By the time she was in high school, she was already winning junior tournaments. After high school, Mickey took her game to Stanford University, where she played for the women's golf team and honed her skills. It was at Stanford where Mickey really started to fine-tune her swing and develop her signature style. After college, Mickey turned pro in 1954, and from there, it was all gas, no brakes. She spent the next few years dominating local tournaments before hitting the big stage. By the time she hit the LPGA Tour, she was ready to show the world what she could do. And well, the rest is history. Mickey took the golf world by storm. Her swing was different from anything anyone had seen. Her elegance on the course made her a fan favorite. She wasn't loud or flashy, she didn't need to be. Her quiet strength and focused demeanor on the green had this magnetic quality. It also didn't hurt that she had some pretty intense rivalries with other top players at the time. Watching those matchups only added to her legendary status. To this day, Mickey's swing is something every golfer studies. You can bet every golfer, from pros to amateurs, has tried to mimic it at least once. But then comes the woman who changed the course of an entire nation. In 1998, Ri Pak won the US Women's Open, marking her name in history. In one of the most dramatic moments in women's golf, Ri won after a 20-hole playoff. You've got to understand, this win was the spark that lit a fire under South Korean golf. This win was the beginning of a revolution. Over her career, Ri made 25 LPGA victories and 5 major championships. Her victory turned South Korean golfers into a dominant force on the LPGA Tour. Before Ri, you didn't see a ton of South Koreans on the tour. After Ri, well, let's just say the floodgates opened, and a whole generation of South Korean golfers followed in her footsteps, making waves worldwide. What made Ri stand out was her impact beyond the course. If it weren't for Ri, we might not see the dominance from South Korean golfers today. What people really loved about Ri was her underdog story. She wasn't born into fame or fortune. She wasn't handed anything. She had to work hard for every single thing she achieved, and that made her even more relatable. It wasn't even her first choice of sport either. Growing up in South Korea, Ri initially started out with tennis. But she found herself more drawn to golf, and by the time she was 14, she made the switch. She was determined, even though golf was still pretty much a guy's game in South Korea at the time. After just a few years, she joined the South Korean national amateur golf team and began competing in tournaments. She was so focused and driven that by the time she was 20, she was already making waves on the professional scene. Fans loved how humble and grounded she was, especially when compared to the flashy, larger-than-life stars of other sports. Her legacy is undeniable. And that's why, even years after her last competitive tournament, Ri is still a household name in the world of golf. But soon came the turn of the Mexicans. In 2007, Lorena Ochoa made history by becoming the first Mexican golfer to ever reach world number 1. The fact that a Mexican golfer could dominate the global scene in golf, a sport historically tied to the US and Europe, you can tell it sent shockwaves through the golf world. Lorena's career was filled with moments that made you sit up and pay attention. With 27 LPGA victories and 2 major championships, she absolutely crushed it on the tour. But let's be real, what set her apart wasn't just the wins. Lorena became the face of Latin American golf. She opened the doors for so many young Latin American players who looked up to her and thought, if she can do it, why can't I? Lorena didn't grow up in a family that was big on the sport. In fact, her dad wasn't even a golfer. But he did enjoy sports, and he passed on his love for athletic competition to Lorena and her siblings. Lorena was actually pretty into soccer at first, like most kids, but golf caught her eye when she was around 5 years old. Her family noticed her natural talent when she was just a kid, and they encouraged her to explore golf more. By the time she was 8, she was hitting the driving range and getting lessons. What's amazing is that she was so good, so quickly. She began winning junior tournaments in Mexico. By 12 years old, Lorena was already starting to make a name for herself in the junior golf scene in Mexico. When she was 15, she turned professional, and her breakthrough came soon after. She had to work hard to gain recognition. By 2001, after a couple of years at the university, she was ready to go pro and hit the LPGA circuit. What made Lorena stand out even more than her skill was her work ethic and sportsmanship. Her humility was something fans absolutely adored. She didn't carry herself with that "I'm better than you" attitude that some athletes get. Lorena's legacy goes beyond her wins. She changed the face of Latin American golf. After she hit number 1, more and more young players from Latin America started picking up clubs, believing that they, too, could make it to the top. Her success inspired a whole new generation of golfers to dream big and chase after their goals. Even though she retired from professional golf in 2010, her influence is still felt today. These women were out to make space for themselves in every ground, and they made their way to the Olympics as well. In 2016, Inbee Park made history by becoming an Olympic gold medalist. While the world was focused on other big names in sports, Inbee stayed calm, collected, and just kept dominating. With 21 LPGA wins and 7 majors under her belt, Inbee was all about consistency. Inbee, like Lorena and Ri Pak, wasn't born into a family of golfers, but like many great athletes, she had that spark early on. Inbee grew up in South Korea, where golf wasn't as popular as it is now. But at the age of 10, her dad took her to the driving range for the first time. She immediately took to it, showing a natural talent for the game. He supported her from then on by getting her proper lessons, and by the time she was 12, she was already winning junior golf tournaments in Korea. At 17, Inbee turned pro. It didn't take long for her to start making a name for herself on the international stage. Her big break came when she won her first LPGA title in 2008 in the US Women's Open, and that was just the beginning. Inbee was like a silent assassin on the course. While others might have cracked under pressure, Inbee remained calm and collected, even in the most intense situations. She had this way of staying focused, never getting too high or too low. Her humility made her a fan favorite, and her dedication to the sport earned her the respect of her peers. Inbee's legacy is one of consistency and mental toughness. She set a new standard for what it means to be a champion in women's golf. Even now, as she continues to play, her impact on the game remains undeniable. But she was not the only one who won the gold medal. In 2021, Nelly Korda took home the Olympic gold medal, and at that time she was only 23 years old. Nelly's already stacking up wins on the LPGA Tour, but that Olympic gold was the moment that turned heads around the world. Her career is young, but she's been playing with the kind of consistency that players twice her age would envy. Nelly was practically born with a passion for sports. Growing up in a family of athletes, it was almost inevitable that she would find her way to the golf course. Her dad, Betsy Rawls, is a former tennis pro, and her mom, Regina Rajkartova, was a professional tennis player as well. Sports were in her blood, and she and her siblings, her sister Jessica Korda, who also plays on the LPGA Tour, were pretty much raised with rackets and clubs in hand. By the time she was 8, she had fully transitioned into golf. When she was a teenager, Nelly made the decision to fully commit to golf. She played at the junior level and started getting serious training, all while keeping an eye on her long-term goal, making it to the pros. She turned professional at just 18 years old. Her early success didn't surprise anyone who knew her. What makes Nelly stand out in a crowded field of talented golfers is that she's the face of the new generation. She's young, fresh, and modern, bringing a whole new vibe to the LPGA. On top of that, she's marketable and relatable, which is exactly what the sport needed to capture younger audiences and bring attention to women's golf like never before. What really gets fans excited about Nelly is that she's the full package. Her charm, her athleticism, and her work ethic make her someone to root for. People love the way she carries herself, cool and confident. Nelly Korda's legacy is still building, but we're already seeing how much of an impact she's having on women's golf. Her ability to modernize the sport and bring it into the spotlight means she's a key player in the evolution of the LPGA. But then comes Betsy Rawls. She became one of the key figures who helped shape the future of women's golf. Her career wasn't just about winning titles, though she did plenty of that, 8 major titles, to be exact. But what really sets Betsy apart is how she played a pivotal role in shaping the LPGA after her playing days were over. She became an executive who pushed the LPGA into new territories and helped secure its future. She had witnessed the evolution of women's golf firsthand, and after retiring from playing professionally, Betsy felt that she could still contribute in a big way. She was also incredibly aware of the challenges the LPGA faced at the time. Women's sports, including golf, were still fighting for recognition and opportunities. Betsy was a true powerhouse during her playing days, but when she stepped away from playing professionally, she transitioned into a leadership role within the LPGA, where her influence went beyond the fairways. As a top executive, she helped guide the tour into a new era, working on improving the structure of the LPGA and making sure the organization stayed strong and relevant. In many ways, Betsy's leadership off the course was just as impactful as her wins on it. She cared about the future of women's golf, and that vision set her apart. Fans and players alike respected Betsy for her work ethic and dedication to growing the sport. She was a trailblazer, both as a player and as a decision-maker, and people respected her for it. Today, the LPGA stands as one of the most important women's sports organizations in the world, and a lot of that is thanks to Betsy Rawls. Her work behind the scenes helped build the foundation for the success of the tour today. Without her leadership and dedication, it's hard to say where the LPGA would be. And last, Louise Suggs. She was a foundational pillar in the creation of women's professional golf. As one of the 13 founding members of the LPGA, Louise helped lay the groundwork for what would become a major force in sports. But her contributions went far beyond just being part of the LPGA's formation. She was a dominant player in her own right, winning 11 major titles and playing a huge role in establishing the LPGA as a credible and competitive professional tour. Back in those days, women's golf wasn't respected like it is today. The sport was in its early stages, and Louise was one of the trailblazers who made sure it didn't get lost in the shuffle. She helped make the LPGA what it is today. In a world where men dominated golf, she wasn't afraid to speak up. She was tough, competitive, and never backed down, even when it wasn't easy. People admired her for her resilience and the way she fought for women to be taken seriously in the game. Louise's legacy is cemented in the LPGA's history. Today, the LPGA is one of the most respected women's sports organizations in the world, and we owe a lot of that to Louise's vision and hard work. Who do you think has had the most lasting impact on the game? Let me know in the comments.